Ashley Newton Nichols, and I thank you for showing up once again. Push it up, bring it out, help one, reach one, teach one. Today I have a very, very special guest, a co-worker, and I do call her a friend. She is always giving back, always open to help, and just embraced me from when we first met. It was just like an instant click. So I bring you Bridgette Fabor.
Yes.
So I welcome you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you
And
for
thank
having me.
you for being willing to share your story, your triumphs, a lot of give backs, and no judgment, and in a safe place.
Great.
I want you to first just introduce yourself, give some background on who you are and how you've come to be, and then we'll start talking.
Wow. Who I am and who I've come to be. My.
I see you as something great. So
Wow. I think that that's something I struggle with being seen as someone doing something great. But let's see. I began with the airline as a very young lady. Mm-hmm. I was just shy of my 22nd birthday.
When you started?
When I started, yes.
Wow.
And I had not experienced anything in life, just very little. As a matter of fact, I had not even had a drink until I was near the end of training.
Okay, being an island family, that sounds weird. we started early, but wow.
Yeah, so I hadn't worn any makeup besides the day of the prom, and I couldn't wait to wash it off. And and then I got to work and looked around and all these fancy and glamorous looking young ladies, and I'm thinking, how did I get here? And who decided I belonged here? And I felt like a cadaver looking at everyone else. So I look like a cadaver next to these women. I need to try some of this stuff.
Now at 22, I'm guessing at that age, going into the airline industry, didn't have a lot of people that looked like you.
Not too many. And the ones who were there, can I say handpicked?
I get it.
Hand-selected?
I get it.
And again, I was baffled as to how I could be included in that group. And I think I was so lost in that I wasn't even honored. I was just baffled at the time.
Like just, I got it? Okay, good.
Like, it was kind of someone to include me amongst all these people, not realizing that I was fortunate enough to be seen by someone who saw beneath the aesthetics, the girl who, had never arched her eyebrows, never had a stitch of makeup on, and had never been on an airplane besides, the day of my first interview, I had never been on an airplane. And so someone saw beyond that. And I don't know if I should even tell this, but the first day I came in, again, I was 21. I was a, great straight A student for the most part, and, person who worked and kept my commitments and, decent, great, good girl, And I wore the best thing that I had. I was working in a business casual attorney's office.
Okay.
As a receptionist or a legal receptionist, and still attending school. And so I wore my business attire for the office.
Okay.
I wore a very nice pair of slacks. I borrowed one of my mother's blazers, and I came in. And the gentleman who sat me down talked to me a little bit, and he said, "Look around at the other girls here." Looked around, and he said, "I really like you, and I think that you would be really great for this job. If I had you come back tomorrow, do you think that you could look a little bit more like them? Do you think you could dress a little bit more like them if I have you come back tomorrow? Because the people that I send you to in the next round might not see you the way I do. So
wow,
I'm going to have you come back tomorrow, and if you can dressed a little bit more like them.
I don't know why that's moving me right now.
It's moving me right now, and I loved it.
And one of the things I said, okay, you do the interview, you talk, you listen, you encourage, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm proud of him for seeing you, and then I'm hurt by the fact that I get it. He knows that I see you. They're not going to see you, and this is only round one, so I get it. But inside, it's stirring like you see her. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, because I felt that. Okay.
Yeah, but all I could do was appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said to me, you'll be great at this job,
mm-hmm.
and I would like to see you with this job. But the people in the next room may not look beyond that. They won't see you. I basically, I know my people.
Okay.
And you need to look like the rest of these girls,
right,
in order to even get a chance. Because they won't hear your words.
Okay.
They'll be looking at your outfit.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so, and the next day, I went back in a business suit. And here I am.
And we're grateful for whoever that young man is. We thank you.
Yes. And how did that describe me? How did I end up?
This is why I like doing this. I really do. And I'm new to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The passion is to help one, reach one, teach one, save one.
Yes.
And to tell our story of where that pain came from and how we became that lotus flower that floated to the top, right? Mm. That's what it is for me. And so when I know people who have stories like that, I clearly don't know your whole life. I don't. But then when I sit down, and so far, each person that I've sat with and some that I've knew since 14, and I talk, and then I hear something like just like, wow, like, so that, I don't know. I don't know what that just did, but I'm just like, the things we have to go through, to just kind of get in the park. Not on the team.
Right.
Can I just come in the park?
Can I just get in the park?
Yeah. And even if you don't see me, can I just be on the team? I'll sit on the bench for a while, but I just need the chance to show when you call me when you call me up, I'm ready. Mm-hmm. And we have to do so much more just to get up to bat. Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I guess that's the frustration maybe I'm feeling, because it's just like, that's not the story for everybody. Mm. So that's a part of developing that shy girl.
Yeah. And it's funny because I wasn't shy at all. No one knew.
See, when I hear someone doesn't like to shop, I'm like, oh, they're shy. They don't know what to put. That's how I receive that.
Not at all.
Okay.
I didn't like to shop because I didn't like to have to try things on. I didn't have to look at myself in the mirror in the dressing room. I didn't like to have to feel that this doesn't. Listen. I wish there's so much to tell, and so there's so many things that happened to get me to that point. But that's where I was at the time. You know, I've always been outgoing, never shy, even as a child. My father says, "Oh, she's never met a stranger," you know, from the time I was a child. And so I've never been shy or an introvert. However, I don't. A person who didn't know me would assume that I was, because I went to work, I went to school, and I went home. And I didn't do much of anything else, which is how I never experiments or dabbled with any drinking or parties or things like that, which my younger sister calls me an L7 square.
Oh, I never heard that before.
Oh, yeah, well, she's country. L.
Oh, the 7.
And a 7.
Okay.
Square.
Okay. I'm going to try that on my kids later. I'm going to try that. And then they're going to really call me square. Like, who does that?
Who does that?
Okay. Now, how long to date have you been with the airline?
23 and a half years.
Okay. So that's me entering the 23rd year now.
Okay.
So.
Wow. Yeah. I started, my first flight was about 10 days before my 22nd birthday. And I'm now 45. doesn't feel real. It feels like a lie. Every time I say it, it doesn't seem possible. But yeah.
From a baby, pretty much.
Yes, I've spent my entire adulthood in this industry, in this career.
Meeting friends and families.
Yeah.
Some foes. It is what it is. It's real.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you look at it from the girl you were at 22 walking in the door to where you are now? Everything that's happened in between that developed you, your strengths, your weaknesses. How did that shape Bridgette?
I must tell you, because I had never done anything, I had never gone anywhere. I had never traveled. I'd never seen anything. I got my passport was mailed to me while at training because I didn't have one prior to being offered the job. Okay. I had never experienced any of these things. And so, for me, my first exposure to really being around large crowds of people, going out for dinner, or going to try and just walk around and walk into a club or a bar, just exploring, sightseeing. My first experiences were with all these strangers.
So it was different for you.
It was different. So yeah, and it was not anxiety. But how fortunate I am that my first exposure to the world was literally being exposed to the world.
Right.
That's a bonus.
Right. That's a
right. So I went from a girl that was just born in the city and moved quite a bit at some point growing up, and I went from that to I don't want to say being culturally unaware, but not having any experience culturally whatsoever. Just being fairly insulated, and not purposely by my parents or anything. It's just my choice, I suppose. And from being completely isolated and not really doing much, but still open, friendly, willing to speak to people.
But that's you. That's your
that's
a
me.
personality.
Yeah, it's my personality. I just, hadn't had any place to sprinkle it yet.
Right. You
so,
didn't get to bless people yet.
Right, exactly. So for me to be on an airplane where, in your situation, it didn't occur to me that this could be something uncomfortable because of that added aspect of me being the only person. Everything was exposure. Everything was brand new. Everyone was brand new. So, and when I was young, but we were talking about the anxiety, the job brought, and the concern, and the guilt, and all those things. All of my concerns and all the things that hurt me, stressed me, or shaped the bad experiences that shaped some things in me, all happened before I came to this job.
So I wanna shift to that. I never want anything to come back to people where you're hurt. Somebody's hurt, and now they don't want to speak to you, and people feel like, oh, I wish I hadn't. I want people to know you're free to say whatever you want to say. And when you feel like you don't want to go anymore, because it's a fearful thing, you don't go anymore.
I've got past those fearful stages. It's been years, and
so I'm finally
at the point now where I share openly. I will share often, and
because there's someone watching, someone who's going to see this, who doesn't have support, who isn't at a place where you finally reached. People go through tragedies, and when you feel you are alone and you can't speak to someone about it, you act out in such a way that you can't come back from. You make a permanent decision for a temporary situation.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning that. I'm still in and out of that. But I want you to take your time and share what you want to share and how you want to share it about our conversation.
Well,
you take your time.
Well, I'm gonna go from the middle to the beginning.
Okay.
and then now.
Okay.
So when I started training for this job, I suppose it was May. I had just been released from the mental hospital, and I believe I'm proud of myself for not remembering the date exactly anymore. That's growth. But I'm assuming February or March of that year. And then I went to training in May and started this whole new life. Just being out of the mental hospital for, I was placed there for a 72-hour hold because my mother was afraid that I would attempt to end my life. I suppose she was justified. She was. I didn't want to experience life anymore. I didn't want to cry every day. I didn't want to feel the way I felt every day. But I knew that I wouldn't kill myself. I wouldn't end my life, but I sure wanted it to be over. My mother was fearful, and rightfully so. Had me go to the hospital for 72 hours. And by that time, I had been spiraling into a deep depression for my entire collegiate career. So for 4 years, actually it was like 5 years when I changed my major, but from sophomore year through the 5th year, it was an entire 4 years where I cried every single day for 4 years straight.
And this is while you were in school?
In college.
Were you away at school?
I was away. When I came home the 5th year, that's when I was. I didn't have roommates because from the time I was a sophomore, as a sophomore, I was given a floor of girls as a CA at that school, but an RA. I was a year young. Who would do that? I was 17 years old as a freshman. I was 18 years old, and they gave me this floor. Some were women. They weren't just freshmen. They were all.
You were the RA?
I was the RA. I've never interviewed for a job and not gotten it.
Younger viewers who have not embarked on college yet, resident assistants, which means she's running
the floor of girls.
The floor at a college at how old?
I was 18.
18 years old.
I've never interviewed for a job and not gotten it, but I must say I probably should not have gotten it.
Okay.
I was a year younger than everyone else. And little did they know how much I was struggling with my own self-image and just making it day to day. And so the responsibilities that came with that were a challenge on top of just me just making sure I get out of bed and shower and go make it to class and eat each day. But I say all that to say from my sophomore year through the rest of my college career, I did not have a roommate. And so there was no one that I had to put on the show, the Bridgette show.
The mask is what I call it.
Right. It's the Bridgette show. Always energetic. Always smiling.
Always
happy.
Making sure they're okay.
Got a jokey joke. And it's not that it's phony. It's not that it's fake. And I wouldn't even say that it was a mask. Perhaps you're correct though. But it was just me pulling myself together to leave my solitude. So I had to pull myself together to open the door and leave my room each day. Some days I didn't do it, so I didn't leave. Many days. But 4 years, I cried every single day. And by that last year of school, when I was home, my mother would come in from work. Didn't you have class today? Yes. Did you go? No. Were you wearing that yesterday? Yes. Were you wearing the day before? Yes. Other stuff. And so a lot of times I would just lay and face the wall and just tears would just fall out of my eyes and I'd just cry and cry and cry. And that also, and you would think that it was about my self-esteem. Oh, I think I'm ugly. Oh, I think I'm fat. Listen, do not waste your thin years thinking that you are fat because you are not.
The way your thing is. Okay.
Thinking you're fat.
I like that.
Because I did. I'll tell you, when I first got this job, I refused to do any layover that was on the beach. I refused. I didn't go anywhere that was hot. If I had an opportunity to do a Cancun or a Detroit, I would not. I would go to Detroit instead because I didn't want to put on a bathing suit. I didn't want anyone to see my legs. I held myself back so much in my life, in my career. You have no idea because of this self-esteem issue. And I tell you, you have no idea where it originates. You think it's really about, a couple of dimples or some hail damage on your butt. You think it's about some cottage cheese on your legs. You think it's about that, but it's so more. It's much more deep seated than that. And so here I was. So now I'll go to the middle. Freshman year of college. I had my boyfriend, and I had just started to become active, and he wanted to. Can we just talk? Okay. So he wanted to add in some oral activity to our repertoire.
He wanted you to sing on the mic.
Yes.
Yes.
He didn't want me to sing. No, he did. But I wasn't comfortable, and I didn't know why. And I started getting flashes. A flash of this, a flash of that, a flash of this. And then one night, it all came back. And I remember having been molested and forced to perform on a cousin named Michael. And that was the beginning, really. And you would think that all the crying and all the not liking myself and all the getting caught up in situations where you don't want to be but don't know how to say no or get away. You have no idea where it really comes from. And so I remember that in detail. And I remember it freshman year. And then by sophomore year, I was barely leaving. So, and it was 4 years after that.
When it initially happened, sounds like you blocked it out.
It's exactly what happened.
And I'm not going to think about it to the point of you didn't remember it until a situation presented itself again.
Exactly. And so now I know that when I was young, and it took me a very long time to find out how old I was when this happened. But I was 5, and Michael was 15. He's 10 years older. I used to go to visit Ben every summer. His sister was one of my close cousins, pretty close, fairly close in age. And so, I would go there in summers, either there or down south, And apparently, one summer, and the only reason that I know how old I was is because everyone pieced together that one summer that after that I refused to go back. No, don't want to go. No. No one knew why. So one summer, so I suppose every day for about 3 months, he would take me down to the basement, to the bathroom in the basement, and we would do that. And so, I will say this because it's meaningful. The last time that it happened, he urinated in my mouth. I'm a child, so I was. And I choked, nearly choked to death, and I'm just choking, And after that, I just would not do it. I refused because I felt like I was dying. So peed in my mouth, you know. And so that was the last time it happened. And I really don't remember anything else. I can tell you a bit of detail what the carpeted stairs looked like, that there was a bar, and there was a bathroom behind the bar, then there was a laundry room in the back. So, apparently, I went back home, you know, didn't tell anyone because he threatened me. If he told anyone, he would tell me. Yeah, he threatened me that, and I was so young, that he threatened me with something so silly. He used to smoke cigarettes, I guess secretly because he was 15. And he actually said, if you tell anyone, I'm going to tell your mother I caught you smoking my cigarettes. And I was 15-year-old. And I was young enough that was enough to frighten me into not telling anyone. And at first, when I first recalled this, I was thinking I must have been like 8 or 7. You know, I was 5 years old.
And you carried that by yourself?
I carried it.
For years?
Well, I refused to carry it for years. And then when it came on me at 17, the entire weight of all those years of not carrying it weighed so heavily that it was tearing me apart, and I didn't understand. I didn't understand what I was being crushed under. But it's the weight of not carrying it for 12 years. 12 years worth of weight. All came down. And so I hated life and did not know why. I thought it was because of what I saw in the mirror. And it was so far from
everything was about you.
me. Yeah. And so apparently I went to a friend's house for a sleepover and told her. She told her mother. And her mother called her.
How old were you at this time?
I was still little.
Okay.
I must have told her very shortly after it happened.
Okay.
And mother called my mom on the phone. Do you have a nephew named Michael? Do you know what he did to your daughter? And they tried to call me to the phone. I wouldn't come to the phone. And when I came to the phone, I wouldn't speak. So I don't know, but when my mother did get me home to talk to me about it, I refused to talk about it. I wouldn't say a word. I guess I thought I was just telling a friend the story.
Right. You're just like
telling a friend the story.
Girls talk, and that's it.
Right.
And now it's snowballing,
Right.
and you're not ready.
I wasn't ready. That's so profound.
You wasn't ready.
I wasn't ready. So and my mother, bless her heart, she I wouldn't talk about it, and I wouldn't repeat it. I wouldn't tell her what happened. And so she just prayed that I would forget. And I did. She did confront her sister. Apparently, the version I hear is that she called his name to the phone. She said, "Did you do such when you messing around with?" Why did I do that? Why that accent? Why?
It's coming back. That's how it happened.
But when you mess around, you do something nasty. You messing with Bridgette. No, Mom, that's nasty. I wouldn't do nothing like that. She made that up. No, Mom. And that was the end of it for my aunt.
That's the end of it for a lot of people. That's where it stops. And we have got to pay attention. And I won't even say that the parents are not paying attention. The creep isn't always the creep outside. The creep is in the house we're in. The creep is in our family.
Yes.
And there's too many 5-year-old Bridgettes that are experiencing things that, one, they're not ready for. And then when it's introduced to them, they're not ready to like, now what do I do with this information? And then pay attention and stop leaving your children with just anybody. And when you do, if you have to, check in. Let your child be comfortable enough to speak to them at least every night. Speak to them that when your child is speaking to you, you can kind of know something that just isn't right. Do a check-in. And these are conversations back then we didn't have. That now
a conversation you may not want to have with a 5-year-old, you have that conversation. Let me tell you something. I don't care what anybody threatens you with. No matter what, I'm always going to have your back. I always will have your back. Anybody touches you, you know, the child's still going to be scared, but they have to know there's somebody they trust. Because now something happened that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But I remember Mom saying, no matter what, she's got my back.
Yeah.
And I keep pausing because I want to say, young ladies, stop having these Insta boyfriends that you think are these babies' daddies that you're leaving them with to babysit. But I can't say that because it's family too. It's not just a stranger. I want you to continue, but I had to just.
We need help, but not all help is good.
And it's set up in a way that you gotta work and you're a single mom. Or you gotta work and mom and dad are working. And it's summer and I may not necessarily have it to send you to camp. So I send you to family. Mm-hmm. Where, oh, I'm grateful my family's helping out. Or helping themselves. And one of the rules I used to always have for my kids growing up, and it's weird, it's like you say, can we talk? Can my daughter step in that? Is there a dick in that house older than her? I don't. No. No. When I met my now husband and my son was 5 years old, and I'm not judging you. I'm not saying you would. But my job ain't to protect your feelings. My job is to protect my son. Do not pick him up. Do not sit him on your lap. Do not hug him. You can say hi. And if any man is offended by that, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm trying to protect him. And I constantly have a conversation with him. My daughter, don't sit on anybody's lap. Do not. Someone's hugging you and you feel uncomfortable. Like a lot of times people go to hug my kid. I'm like, he's not a hugger. My son hated hugging people. He's like, he would hug you in a way where he'd like, and I'm, oh, why this person don't want to hug him? I'm like, he doesn't want, don't force it. That's just, you know, and it's easy to brush off just saying he's not a hugger.
That's a very good way to handle that because, and I'm very careful to, a lot of times, I invite children to hug me, but I don't go in for one. And the other day, I was introduced to little boys, and said his father said, "Oh, well, no, I wasn't introduced. I had been around him a few times, and so it was a situation where we were saying goodbye, and he was like, "Oh, give him a hug." And I said, "Oh, he doesn't have to hug me. It's okay. Give me this one." You know. The thing about that I want to make sure I add as well is when you tell your children to do something physical with someone, just hug them or give them a kiss or let them give you a kiss. So when you force your children or you condition your children to forcefully do physical things with people that they don't want to do, that is conditioning them. And so I would add, don't force your children to hug people. Because the next time an older person or a family member or someone says, "Come give me a hug," even if they don't want to, they may feel forced to do it. And it's just a matter of conditioning. And I think that's something that we're learning now as a society. But I would never tell a child, "Oh, come on, give me a hug." Or I cringed almost when he told his son, "Give her a hug. What are you afraid of? You know her."
Don't.
No, he certainly does not have to embrace anyone that he doesn't know or feel comfortable with. Right. We shouldn't have.
You, and it's something we have to learn because it's from generations. As you grow, things change, and the more you learn, you know better, you do better, right?
Yeah.
And I add to that, I have a daughter, and she has friends. She can't have a sleepover. But what I will do is I'll rent a hotel.
Yeah.
And I get like hotel suites, and I stay there with the girls. That's my way of protecting my family and making sure those families at home could feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my daughter said that I'm always having company. Can she come? I've had a parent let her daughter, she's never been to my house, barely knew me, and was willing. You don't know if I got a cat, a dog, how many men living in here, who drinks, who's doing drugs. You don't know what goes on in my house. And they are very willing to be trusting to let their kids just stay anywhere.
I look at that and I say that how fortunate that person is that tragedy has not struck their family.
Mm-hmm.
Too unfortunate.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
How fortunate they are that they feel that they haven't been terrorized into hovering and protecting their children. But it's not an ideal situation.
So as a 5-year-old that dealt with that, and then spoke to your mom, and then your mom speaks to her sister,
Her older sister,
and
Mm-hmm.
Michael
Mm-hmm.
that's nasty.
I didn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
The family dynamic now between your mom and sister, the family dynamic now between you and your aunt, and do you have family get-togethers? Do you see him now as an adult? How does that move forward for your family?
So here's the twist. Well, when my aunt just said it didn't happen, flat out denied it, I'm pretty sure this is the oldest sister, and my mom is the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a close topic. And I don't fault my mother for that. I just know that that's how she is.
Mm-hmm.
And I did forget it. And the unfortunate part about me having forgotten it, and it's something that really pissed me off when I remembered it, is that all these years in between I've been buddy with him, because this and that, which then leaves him more opportunity later to say, see, it didn't happen. It's cool and easy, But so there really was no family issue that this caused, because I forgot, and but I refused to go back to DC. I refused. But I refused.
Instead of the person, it's the place.
Yes.
Because there's a relationship with him.
Wow.
There's a relationship, and I'm blocking out because how could he do such a bad thing? Maybe that didn't happen. But I know that place doesn't hold any good memories for him. You block the place and not the person.
Isn't that something?
You separated him from that.
I did for many years. Yeah, I did not go back.
Like as a child, when something happens, I find like there's times as an adult, we go places and something is a stirring.
Yes.
And we're like, why? I'm uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a car as an adult and you'll hear an older song. Why do I feel sad with this song?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean something bad happened there,
Right.
but it wasn't a good time for you, whatever you were going through.
Mm-hmm.
And that city for you is, I'm not getting any good vibes, memories, or I'm just, the stirring up. It's coming up.
Yeah.
It's trying to come up and come out, and it's like you're like, no, I'm just not going over there.
I'm not going, and did not know why. I just know that I never went. I didn't go back for the summers. I would go down south North Carolina to. Yeah, I would go elsewhere. Yeah, and
so you're this bumping Michael, and now you're pissed. You're mad at yourself.
So now I'm 17, and I remember this, and I remember the first time I saw him after I remembered it. Maybe we were in town for a wedding or something. And the first time I walked up, and he's like, "Hey, cuz," he's cigarette standing outside before I could even go inside. "Hey, cuz," and I just froze. I froze. I couldn't move. And he came up to me, and
and how you doing? He threw his arms around me and everything, and I was frozen and I could not move.
Mm-hmm.
And when he let go, he's like, because I wouldn't hug him back, it was kind of like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
went on about his business,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I went inside. And so each time I encountered him after having remembered, I really went through that process.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I was completely just catatonic and could not move and I was frozen. But I was just so angry. You know, the nerve of this guy to walk up to me and just
arrogant,
just hug me like we're cool, nothing, you know, the nerve of but I was still frozen. I couldn't do saying anything.
And just as you put it out your mind, he's seen you time and time after that.
Yeah.
And like,
Hey, girl.
you gave me a pass.
Yeah.
What's good? Why are we acting funny now?
Exactly.
Like, you forgot it. I forgot it. I got over it. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's just come.
Yeah.
And now you're going through your process.
Process was really just beginning. I mean, he had 12 years, probably almost 15 years to process it. I had just started. You know, he had 15 years to put it out of his mind, or you know,
he didn't have to put it out of his
move
mind.
on to other children.
You took the word. Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Because do you think you were the only one?
I know.
Okay.
They all know, but I wasn't the only one. We'll get back to that. I was studying law. I knew there was a statute of limitations. I didn't know that there's anything that could be done. I just figured I'd deal with it. But that didn't go so well, right? So, but yeah, my relationship with that aunt began to deteriorate. So each time I saw him, there was always the anger internally, but externally, my reaction changed each time. And the same thing with my aunt. I would, you know, I'd speak, I'd be cordial. That was it. Until one holiday, everybody's at our house. I guess it was Thanksgiving or something. I don't know. All right. Lots of people had come up to New Jersey for some reason. And, you know, we were there. And the story comes on. I think it was some talk show. And they were interviewing the author of the book entitled A Child Called It. And it's about a young man he was, as a very young boy, he went through the foster care system and was abused in different, you know, to different levels in different ways in different homes throughout the years. And he wrote a book about being called It instead of having a name.
Okay.
And being terribly, terribly abused sexually as well as other ways. And of all people, my aunt says, well, if anyone ever did that to my child, I would just, girl, I'm in my own house.
Ooh, yes.
It just came out. I said, oh, but your sister's child, that's just fine then, right?
At a family gathering.
In my house, you know. I had in a basement apartment. So I said it. I went to my basement, slammed the door, stayed down there and would not come back upstairs and talk to these people.
In your house.
In my house. It's like, you know what? Oh, but your sister's child, that's just fine. There was no response, no other conversation. I went downstairs. No one came to talk to me until my mother came home. Mother came downstairs and I said, I don't know, Mom. Couldn't help it. It came out. She said something that just, But the sad thing about it is that no one came downstairs to say, what are you talking about?
Right. What's wrong?
What do
What's
you
going
mean?
on?
What's wrong? They sat upstairs and I suppose acted like it was never said. My mother was sent downstairs to speak with me hours later when she came home. And I don't remember how that was resolved, but, you know, that's just that incident. And let's see. The next time I saw Michael, it was a funeral. And years later, let me see, I don't know, 8 years,
Mhm.
year, maybe 10, lots of years later, it was a funeral. And I said, before we even do this, is Michael there? Is Michael going to be there? Is he in town? Is he going to be there? No, he's not coming. He won't be there. Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
I went. He was not at the funeral. So I'm feeling very calm, relaxed. I'm in the car with, of all people, his sister. And I think at this point, at some point, I shared with her what he did. And she was very comforting to me, accepting of my story, and just allowed me to vent to her. So I'm now in the car with her, and she said to me, she said, you know what, this makes so much sense because, you know, when we were younger, I just never understood we used to be so close. And then, you know, and then we weren't, and I didn't really know what happened.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, well, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. And she said, wow, I never knew why we stopped being close. You live in the house with that dude, you know? But, so, we were together in her car. Walk up to the repass. Walking, I still remember this so vividly. Up the walkway, I go to approach the stairs. There are like 4 stairs. And as I'm going to enter the front door, the door flings open and Michael walks out. Hey, cuz!
We're still doing that?
We're still doing this! Because remember, he's made me angry, and I've turned all of this anger every time I see him inward, and it's just eating away at me. And then I know what I want to say, and I mean, if my mother used to say, "You're looking at me like if your eyes were bullets, I'd be dead." So really, I would give him the death stare and the evil eye and all that, but I would never have anything to say. So I had never confronted him.
He's heard it by way of his mom.
I think his mother bothered. No. They don't know. Just still not getting it. No one is talking about this. No one.
Right. So it was only the initial, did you do this? No, that's nasty.
When I was 5.
Right.
And then again when I was 17.
Okay.
And then
that's
nothing. There's not been any discussion. So I think the only time she's ever brought it to her son was when he was 15 years old. That's it. Never brought it up since then. And no one else is talking about it. And so when I blurted all that out to my aunt when everyone was in town, the other aunt who we lived with and who my mom and she owned the house together, I then brought her in on it after everyone left, of course. No one wants to discuss it while they're there.
Right.
How uncomfortable for them.
Right. Which is why it gets to keep happening.
Exactly. So after they left, my aunt was like, so what was that you were talking about? And I'm like, oh, you don't know? Mommy didn't tell you? Nobody told you? Oh, Michael's a perv. Michael did this. At this time, I still didn't know how old I was. So I was like, I was a little kid, like maybe, I don't know, like 7, 8. I was little. But it happened a long time ago. But yeah, this is what he did. He's nasty. And he should not be around kids. And again, so then it was like my small circle of people who knew. I shared it with my mother. My mom did send me to therapy, shared it with a therapist. That was the first time I step by step relived it, and the tears and I look at my growth because I remember sitting in that therapist's office. And the first time I had to say what actually happened, I couldn't hear myself say the words. I had to put my hands over my ears and just say it like this. I couldn't say it out loud. I had to cover my ears and just blurt it out what he did. That was how I shared the first time. So Michael, the door flings open and Michael comes out. Hey, cuz. And thank God the person that is with me is someone who knew. Because this time I didn't freeze, but I turned and ran. And I just spun around and I just started walking back to the car. And he's following me. Where you going, cuz? I mean, what? I'm why she acting like that? Hey, man, come on, man. I ain't seen you in so long, cuz. And I'm just like, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Why you following? Can you just tell him to leave me alone? Just please. I went back to the car. I got in the passenger seat, closed the door, and he's standing at the window. Cuz, come on, why? And I'm just, could you please just tell him, just go away. Just tell him to please just go away. And she's like, come here, Michael. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. And he comes around to her side as she's getting into the car. Mm-hmm. She gets in the car. She closes the door. She tells him, leave her alone. Just go away. He was like, well, why? What's wrong? And she said, you know why. He didn't say another word. He walked away from that car. And I think part of my healing or challenge over the years and decades has been that I did want someone to do
protect you.
I wanted someone to do something. I wanted someone to be angry enough to attack him, embarrass him, hurt him, make him pay. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to be me, but I wanted, hey, now. I mean, can you do it? Mm-hmm. Somebody, And I suppose that was part of what was one of the issues that had to be handled, and then things that needed to be addressed. Was that, okay, I didn't fight for myself, but are you guys going to do it? One of you? Somebody? Anybody? Please?
And I have to say this. So as you're talking, I'm thinking about, people always say two sides to a story, right? Mm-hmm. So even if Michael was at an age where the most horrific thing he did, terrible, it still could have been met with, let's fix this. Yes. You damaged somebody, but you made an awful decision. Like, how do you come up with, this is what I'm going to do to somebody? It's awful as it is. Mm-hmm. He's a child. And now the adult, being his parent, that's aware of what he did, you have an opportunity now. Nobody wants to hear how horrible their child is. But I can tell you, each one of us walking has made a horrible decision and a mistake. Maybe not as graphic, maybe it's not as horrific as, right? Mm-hmm. But now, as a woman, one, two, as this person's mother of a child who's doing this, if you put your blinders on before that he's done it, you maybe she knows, maybe she doesn't. If this was the first time, chances are he's going to do it again, because you're showing him a pattern that this is okay. I'm going to protect you. But you have the ability right now to say, listen, I don't know what you did, if you did it. You're saying you didn't, she's saying you did. But let me just make something perfectly clear. I need to make sure she's okay. That is my niece. That is my sister's daughter. Mm-hmm. And whether you did it or not, you need to know that's not acceptable. That is not okay. And I want us to sit down as a family. Right. Even if it's just us four and we discuss it with no one else, it has to be discussed. And even though this child is 5 years old and may not articulate it properly, does not want to talk about it, let's talk about it. I know this happened back then and we didn't really address it. Mm-hmm. Can we just have a sit down? Because it would have opened, you still may not ever want to deal with him, because that's how you're going to always see him. But you would have felt that support from mom and from auntie. Mm-hmm. Auntie could have got him in counseling. Mm-hmm. Sad as it is, it happens. It happens. But you need help and counseling, but so did he. Yeah. I believe your aunt cried. And she hurt because she don't want to deal with this. This is not something she wants to deal with, not my child. But at some point...
I don't think so. I think at some point I forced her to. But along the way, I don't think so.
I think your aunt, at some point, needed to say, whew, Father God, get me through this. I don't know how, but order my steps and guide me. But that phone call should have came to your mother. Let's sit down and talk.
It should have.
Let's sit down and talk.
Incidentally, this is at this funeral when Michael came toward me in the car. That day actually is when that happened. It was when the conversation happened. So he went away,
Mm-hmm.
and I just could not be, I couldn't get myself together. I couldn't. They took me inside the house where the repast was. They took me into a bedroom off to the side. And I still remember sitting on that bed. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I was hyperventilating on this bed. Couldn't get myself together. And it was just like, okay, take her out of here. Just take her back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I left. And I couldn't get myself together. It took me away. Took me to my aunt's house, the big gathering house, and where we were staying. And it took me a long time to calm down, and they left me in the room. I went and laid down, and at some point I got up. It's funny, that bedroom, it's where a lot of this stuff happened, in my aunt's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Over the years. I came out of the room and I said, I want to talk to him. That night.
Oh, that talk.
That night, I got myself together. I said, I want to talk to him. You do? You want me to call Michael? Yes, I do. Call Michael. I want to talk to him. And my cousin, one of the daughters of the aunt that I had told where I was staying. So many aunts. I'm so sorry if this is getting
No,
convoluted.
I have a lot of aunts. I know.
But one of the daughters of the aunt where I was staying, my closest aunt, she called because she knew that if she asked him to come, he would. Your cousin would like to talk to you about some things. Are you willing to come and talk to her? Or what about? Well, that's something that we should probably talk about when you get here. Just let me know that you're going to come.
Mm-hmm.
He said, okay, well, I'll come.
Mm-hmm.
And we all gathered. The aunties, the cousins, including his sister and his mother. And we all sat and we waited. And Michael didn't show. But
His mother and sister came.
everybody was there. We were all waiting for Michael.
Michael didn't show up.
Michael didn't show up. But since I had gotten some strength and guts in me
Mm-hmm.
and decided I was ready, the discussion took place without him. And for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
I, a grown woman of 34, 33, 34, looked my aunt in the eye and told her what her son did to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she sat and she shook her head. She cried. All my cousins were female cousins were in the room. My mother wasn't present at the time. But my closest aunt, her daughters, I think Michael's sister was there. I'm not sure, but I think. And Michael's mother. And that night was the night I found out how old I was when it happened. Because they were all figuring, oh yeah, it was the 1980. It was the last time she came to the house. After 1980, she never came back.
Mm.
And I was like, I was 5 when this happened? I was 5? That's disgusting. I was like, I was 5. Wow. I didn't know. Guess what else I found out that day? I'm the youngest of all these cousins. These girl cousins. They're all 5 to 8 to 9, maybe 10, 11 years older than me. And as I'm beginning to talk and say what happened, this one goes, oh yeah, he tried that with me. He nasty. I told him I would kick his ass. He better leave me alone. Oh yeah, he tried to do something with me too. Yeah, I told him I would fuck him up.
But they were older than 5.
They were older.
Than 5.
He tried all these other cousins who fought back.
So he went younger.
So then he came to little old 5-year-old Bridgette. who didn't know what was going on.
And what is his mother saying?
His mother's silent. She's not saying anything. She's just taking it all in. And since she's not speaking, at the end I said, so and I'm not certain what she said, but I know she didn't say what I needed her to say. So I said, but do you believe me? And she said, well, yeah, I do. I do. I have to believe you. I know you didn't make all this up. And they can't be either. Yes, I believe you.
Breathe.
Exhale. The growth from that alone, the conversation, not even facing the accuser, just being told you are believed. I believe you. I know you're not a liar. I know my son did this to you. You don't have to hold this in anymore. You don't have to hate me anymore. You don't have to withhold your hugs or love or distance yourself from me anymore. Let's not be awkward anymore.
And that's all you were waiting for.
It was the closure that it was the closure that I didn't know that I needed with my aunt. You know? But it just released something so heavy off of me. I wish
your mom could have been there for that.
I really do too. I really do too. I really wish she was present for that. And wow. But it was an ordeal. Telling the story.
But look,
beginning to end. Telling her exactly what happened, what he did, recounting him urinating, you know, in my mouth and seeing my cousins cringe and all this, just like you did. I still, the reason I say this is because I was nearly 40 years old when I stopped experiencing this as a child. I stopped recalling it as a child. Like, basically, I stopped reliving it, finally, when I was nearly 40 years old. And do you know why? Oh, wow. Oh, I'm blowing my own mind. Wow. I finally stopped reliving this as a child. I saw Michael one additional time. It was a family reunion at that same aunt's house. This is a few years after, maybe 6-7 years.
After the no-show.
After the no-show, and everyone knows. And I'm not quiet about it. It's a family reunion. And, you know, we're all she's got all this acreage, you know, and we're doing games and potato sack races and all that in the backyard. And I'm comfortable with everyone. And then Michael shows up. Michael's sitting down, and my aunt, my favorite aunt, my closest aunt, you know, she walked up to him with a plate of food.
To serve him?
Yes. Oh, here you go, Michael. Oh, you need another beer? And I'm looking at this like, now, what the hell is going on here? Okay, so I told them, so they know exactly what happened. They believe me. We've got that out of the way years ago. What is happening right here?
So we're looking for them to hold the anger you hold towards him.
Yes.
But they can't do that. You know that.
Well, why not?
They know. They're aware.
Yeah.
It's not their position to treat him different. How do you expect them to treat him different when his own mother didn't? And it's not to say because she's still treating him the way she always did, that she doesn't believe you. That's not what that means.
Mm.
That's not what that means. When you see him, every time you see him, you're gonna feel something. But you can't now expect something that you just gave them.
7 years ago.
Right. But that's not their fight. That's still Michael to them. Michael that did something. Michael that, wow.
Believe me, they've been hearing all sorts of stuff.
Because I can tell you, when you liken that to, I go on a flight, and it could be a pilot or male flight attendant that you've been friends with your whole career. And I'm just a friend, so I know it's not the same dynamic. And I say, can you believe he did that? And then you're like, oh my God. That doesn't mean when I work a flight with you and that person gets on that you shouldn't speak to that person still. You know, you see how that means? You can't expect somebody to cut somebody else off because of your pain. What you did was to warn them and educate them on, this is what happened to me. So now they can be aware. Anybody else having babies in this family, be more mindful. Be aware of what's going on. Because what would happen is if everybody ostracized him, you want everybody to go, hands back, we're not dealing with you. There'll be something like that. I'm that person because that's my personality, which we just talked about.
And I had a cousin or two that did the same.
Right.
But here I am. I mean, there's a little swimming pool in the backyard. The little kids are running around in bathing suits, and I'm like, why are you people allowing all these children running around half naked with him in the house? Put some clothes on these kids with him here.
Right.
Y'all know what he does.
Right.
I don't understand what's happening here. Am I in some type of a twilight zone?
Right.
Why are you allowing? Put some clothes on this child. Send the children back outside. What really?
No,
really?
I know.
And then bring them an ice cold beer. I was so bad.
Right. No, I say that because I love hard. I fight hard. And in the long run, I learned sometimes I can't inject myself in someone else's fight. I'm going to support you.
I don't even like you right now because you're making a lot of sense. It does make sense.
They love you. It doesn't mean they don't love you, they don't care about you, and they don't support you. But sometimes we can't always interject.
Yeah.
That's your fight. And I got you. I'm here.
I was so
Of course. Like, why didn't you? Like, you thought she was going to hit him in the head with the drink. See, I go to the violence, right?
Violence.
Like, you would say, oh, God, Kim's getting a bottle of beer. Kim, don't give it to him. Just let
Right.
That's what you would think.
Yeah. Well, and it's not that I expected anyone to say, get out, you're not welcome.
Right.
But to treat him like some kind of a king, and to wait on him and all that, it burned me up. And when he arrived, I didn't know. We were all outside having a great time. We were in the middle of all the festivities. Cousin walks up to me and says, I just want to tell you, Michael just got here. And I'm like, where is he? Well, he just pulled up. He just got here. Are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. I guess I'm all right. What would you like me to do? Do you want me to ask him to leave? I said, yeah. Can you ask him to leave, please? Well, don't ask me and give me power just to snatch it back.
Because now I'm pissed at you too.
I was pissed at her because she asked me.
Right.
I told her.
She asked.
And then she said.
To seem supportive.
Yeah.
Not expecting that answer.
Yeah. Yes. Please ask him to leave. Yes. Yeah. And she didn't. And instead it was, well, it just maybe it'll be okay. You don't have to deal with him and blah, blah, blah. And so I was just, at that point, I went into protective mode with the children. But I also went into just being enraged that he was being served. And everyone's sitting around chit-chatting with him like they don't know that there's a pedophile in the house. But thank you for that, Jim. And and I've actually spoken on how I was feeling at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'd gotten past, no, I hadn't gotten through it. I just got past it. And I was highly pissed at her body. And I just felt like, why ask? You know, why give me my first taste of power in this situation, and just to snatch it back, right? And but then it was like, okay, Bridgette, keep your voice down. You need, like, you don't want to, like, don't make this a thing, okay? Just.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just, at some point I realized that he was leaving abruptly. Didn't find out for quite some time why. But at some point he decided he was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, his wife was with him. And so I was following out the front door when I saw him leaving, because my eyes weren't off him very long.
Mm-hmm.
I knew when he was starting to get his stuff together and leave out the house, so I jumped up and started following. Excuse me, don't you have a daughter? I think you should know what Michael does to little girls. And so I'm following behind them, because I'm going to tell her, look out for yourself and look out for your, if you have children, and do you know who you're with, and this man is this and that, and then some.
Mm-hmm.
And I got snatched back by my brother-in-law. He stopped me from reaching him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm yelling, which I'm not a very good yeller. Mm-hmm. So, of course, he can pretend not to hear me. Goes to his car, gets in, drives off, zoom. And there went my only opportunity to say something, to finally confront the man. I finally felt strong enough. I finally had an opportunity. He was finally in the same room. And I was finally going to be able to confront him and tell him, I know what you did. And I got snatched back and silenced. And I was so angry. I went into my aunt's room and I did not come out. I was pissed at everybody. I was pissed at my cousin for asking me if he should leave and then not asking him to leave. I was pissed at everybody for acting like it was perfectly normal for him to be sitting here with all these children running around. I was pissed with my brother-in-law for stealing my opportunity. I was pissed at my sister, who probably didn't even know the situation, who was just like, you're making a scene and nobody needs to hear all that. I thought she knew. Maybe she didn't. But all I know is, excuse me? Like, I need to what? And nobody needs to what? And I'm ruining what?
Right.
I was pissed at everybody. I went in my aunt's room and I didn't come out for the rest of the day. I didn't come out for breakfast. Oh, you don't feel good? No, I'm fine. I'm pissed. Okay, well, we'll leave you alone then.
And that was the last you saw Michael?
Mm-mm. That was the last incident.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was pissed off. I had a headache. I had a splitting headache for an entire day. And then that evening, about 24 hours after this happened, I say, call Michael.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting this done and over with.
Mm-hmm.
And that same cousin got him on the phone, and this time he showed up.
Okay. What do you feel as he comes in?
I felt, first of all, remember, I thought I had already had closure. I thought I was fine.
Your closure was with his mother.
Exactly.
You never addressed him.
Exactly.
That door, that window, you closed the window. You got to close the door.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was feeling strong. I was feeling ready. I was feeling empowered in that moment. And I was ready to face him and tell him what he did.
Mm-hmm.
Look him in his face. Come what may. But it was what I needed to do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I know that the blessing in this for me is that countless people never get this chance.
Right. Ever.
never ever get this opportunity. The person denies till they die. They never get an opportunity to face them.
They're not strong enough.
They never become strong enough. They never evolve to the point where they can do it. They're so busy still fighting the residue of it that they're not able to wash it clean.
And the fact that this person was in your family, is in your family. So chances of you seeing the person again, you had a better chance. Picture the countless people who their predator was a stranger.
You know, I've only thought about people who just avoided the person in their family, or avoided the person forever, or that person was able to avoid them, or they just died, or they, I never thought of those as well. Yeah, never have a chance to face their accuser. And I have to tell you that the blessing that came out of that evening was that Michael neither confirmed nor denied.
He just
sat there.
Voice.
No, it was better than that. My cousin who called him, her husband, and he and I sat in the room, same room where years prior I had told his mother. And I told him what I remember him doing when I was 5 years old. And still, I didn't know until that day, because I asked him, how old are you? At the time, he might have said 50. And I said, well, then you were 15 when this happened. He's like, no, really? I said, well, you're 50 and I'm 40. So, yeah, you were 15 when I was 5. Yeah. And he said, and my cousin kind of mediated a bit. Well, what do you say to what your cousins, to what Bridgette said happened? What do you say to that? And he says, well, I don't remember doing that, and I don't remember that happening, but I'm not gonna say it didn't. I mean, you said that it happened, and I'm not gonna say it didn't, because I know I was managed as a child. Down south, managed.
Yeah, tell me. But yeah,
down south people say managed. That means you was
grown.
You was nasty.
Doing grown nasty stuff.
You was nasty. She said, yeah, I do know I was managed as a child, so I'm not gonna say it that it didn't happen. So it was not a confirmation that yes, I did it, but it was, I believe you. And then he started to say things like, and I'm sorry that this affected you so badly throughout your life, and for all these years that you still feeling the results of this, and I'm really sorry. And he cried, and my cousin cried, and her husband cried, and they're passing tissues amongst each other. You want tissue, Bridgette? No, this ain't new to me. It's new to y'all. I'm good. It's not new to me.
People don't get that though.
Yeah, man, y'all can. Yeah, I've been through this phase.
Yeah.
Y'all go on without me. But he's like, I'm sorry that that this affected your life for all these years so much. And honestly, that was when it happened. Like, wait.
The door.
The door. The door. The door.
We can close it. We can lock it.
The door.
And you hold the key.
I hold it, yes. My cousin asked me at the end.
Go ahead.
And so she says, well, your cousin apologizes. And do you accept your cousin's apology?
I knew that was coming.
And I said, well, I accept the words. Yeah. I accept the words. I accept the apology.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you
Mm-mm.
want to give you?
Mm-mm. You even got to say it
Right? You think you want to give your cousin a hug? I said no.
in my saying what I'm saying. He gave you an apology, but protected himself at the same time. And I can't say understandably. He protected himself. But I'm going to give him credit in acknowledging what he did was wrong. And finally stepping up to let you close the door and hold your own key now.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're in the door. Your 5-year-old still standing in the door. And you're the adult that wants to close it and lock it, and you can't because he's still holding that key. He gave you the key now.
Wow. Yes. Profound.
And I'm going to say this. Even bigger than that, what he did, so many will never do. So that's growth on him too.
Yeah.
He was 15. Yeah. He was 15. And his 15-year-old self, I'm only going to speak of 15 because we know it happened, right? Everything else after that is alleged. Because although you know your story, you may have heard of other stories. That's not your story to tell.
Right, of course.
But you used your voice to make it aware and known. This happened to me. I'm not wavering from it. This is what happened. And at this stage in the game, to say, yes, I'm sorry, is a big thing.
It was big. It was big. But what's coming up here is so, as I was saying, I think before, I had always been experiencing this as my 5-year-old self. And it affects you in ways that you don't even realize. When you're confronted with things that you don't desire to participate in, when you find yourself in situations that you'd rather not be in, when someone approaches you and you really don't want the attention, when someone, it just kept happening to me.
You didn't know.
I kept finding myself where I didn't want to be. And I kept okay.
Push through the pain, okay? And I say push through the pain because when we're in situations, and so I'm hearing you, and I'm hearing you in these situations, and I heard you mention it kept happening in college, in your adult life. And one of the things I want to share, because through every tragedy, you like how you said you became a flight attendant and you just want them to see you, right? And then you took us through that the whole story. You have your key now. And in pushing through the pain, I have to, because I definitely want them to hear this. So another layer is what I'll put, another layer, another measure of your strength, of who you are. One of the things I've seen, witnessed, that key in your hand is that control and that organizing and that directing of a program that you run. Because a lot of times people who have been in dark places and went through things, the only way you get through is a creative side. You got to find a hunger of something, because if you sit there in your Michaels and you sit there in your stripper, bathroom Tyler, and you sit there in, you're supposed to be upstairs while you following me downstairs, and that's all you sit in, you don't make it out. You've got to push through the pain. So one of the things I know in your creativity and your need to help other people came about how you helped give back to the less fortunate, to the homeless. And it was just a gesture of a call. Hey, I know your husband DJs. Do you think he'd be able? Do you know somebody who cuts hair? Send me the flyer, Bridgette. And so when I said, okay, I'm thinking this.
Right.
And then, what's your height? I'm gonna tell you why. What's your height?
5 foot nothing.
Okay. 5 foot nothing, Bridgette. Right? So you heard the story. So I get the call. I'm doing a little something. That's how she likes it. I'm doing a little something where we're giving back. And if we could have volunteers, anybody that cuts hair and makeup and any service provider that wants to volunteer. So I said, okay, my husband will DJ. I'll come in any capacity that I can help. We'll be there. Count us in. I'm thinking, right? Rainy day. We show up and we're unloading. And I see 5 foot nothing, Bridgette, with clipboard. I'm like, what is she doing? I was like, hi, we're here trying to do the smooches. Yeah, So listen, this is where I need you. I need you to go over there. Yeah, you did. Yeah, I need you to go over here. Oh, you're here, great. So go ahead and set up. The other DJ is gonna be there. Yeah. Listen, girl, I'm not holding your hand, walking you through. This is not a social visit. We've got things to do, and we're gonna get it done. That's what I was met with. 5 foot nothing, the strength. This is how you push through the pain. You take your key and you get a clipboard, right? And you start telling people. So now we go in this gymnasium.
It was a rec center.
And it was stations of people where Bridgette is saying, so where should we just put them where you need them? I'm like, Bridgette, where do you want? Put them where you need them. I'm like, this is not the flight attendant on the plane that's all asleep. I'm like, oh, the director is rough. So, oh my goodness. I was like, I don't multitask in my head very well. I'm sorry. No, but the message I received was, we are here to help and serve, and we are not here to socialize. So I quickly took my lead from my director with the key. And when I tell you, there were stations of people helping do free haircuts. There were stations of women giving braids and hair for women. There was dancing. There were food stations. There were shower stations. There were backpacks.
Well, don't forget the best part, the massages.
The massages.
Yes.
And so, it wasn't a social visit, so I couldn't get one. I really wanted to jump in and get a massage, but the director was in the building, so I dare not. But it was really a good cause. They had buses coming in, and Bridgette's letting us know this bus we need some of you to get on the bus and go down because they're picking them up from Newark Penn Station. And there's another bus going to this place. And when they come, I want you to give them the backpacks. And then that's their backpacks. And then there was people donated clothes. So there was lines of shoes and clothes. And it was just really, and services for testing and religious counseling. It was so well orchestrated. It was definitely not this. And 5 foot nothing, as she said, was a giant, an absolute giant with a clipboard and a key.
I absolutely did not do that myself. But thank you very much.
And please say the other organization because I don't remember their name because I was looking at the director.
Just a Bit of Heaven.
Just a Bit of Heaven.
Yes, Andrea Sarosa. And Tender Loving Totes. That's
yes.
Tender Loving Totes. That's myself and my partner, Erica Florencio.
And we will put the link up.
Yeah.
For you to follow.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us a little bit of how you got involved with that. How did you go from 5-year-old Bridgette, adult Bridgette, to it's my time. I've got my key. I'm giving back.
I have to tell you, we started the organization 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, 5 years ago, right about now.
Mm-hmm.
Erica had always had a love of and an affinity and a concern for people who were on hard times and facing homelessness, even as a child. And so we attended church together, and she said a couple of times that she wanted to put together bags, tote bags.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she had seen blessing bags,
Mm-hmm.
you know, little small
Right.
bags. And she wanted to take the blessing bag and make it bigger
Bigger.
and larger. And I said to her, I says, well, I'll help you, but I want to do more than just help.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to pour like toiletries and all this love
Mm-hmm.
and just pour and just hand out love in the community. And I'm like, I'm in, you know. So I said, I don't just want to help. I would like to partner with you. Do you want to partner? Do you want some help with this organization?
Mm-hmm.
She said, sure. And so the following month, she called it Tender Loving Totes.
Mm-hmm.
And the following month, we organized, got everyone together, and we handed out our first totes in December 5 years ago.
Mm.
And it was amazing. It was. And we would go to train stations and bus stations, and we would go to buildings that we knew that to be abandoned, or any place that we knew people took shelter.
Mm-hmm.
We would go to them where they were. We would keep the totes in our cars, and when someone is asking for change, we'd give them this tote filled with all the things that they could need, but thoughtful things.
Right. The things that you wouldn't think.
Like,
right.
can you imagine if your lips were chapped and dry, and all you had was really? Can you imagine?
Making
My lips
it
would
worse.
fall off if I didn't
Right,
have
right.
chapstick. You know, so things like that, and lotions and socks, and not the little ankle socks that fall and slip inside
Right,
the shoe that
shoe.
annoy.
I hate
Because if it's going to
that.
be my only pair of socks, should it be an annoying pair?
No. Right. Right.
Right? Okay. So stuff like that.
I like that.
Yeah, and so, but so we've been doing it for 5 years, and then Andrea Sorosa, Just a Bit of Heaven, she mentioned that she wanted to just have an event where everyone will be able to come in and take a shower and get a meal. Andrea, every other week, faithfully serves food and offers clothing at the same location, and everyone knows, and they come there and they get delicious food and they get to pick their clothing. And so we began partnering with Andrea. And then when she said that she wanted to have an event where everyone could come take a shower and just have a day to just be pampered and
right.
taken care of, we were like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And the
It
answer
was beautiful.
And the answer was, you can't do that. Nobody's going to let you do that. Showers, really? Oh, you can't do that in 6 weeks. It's not possible. Well, at first they were saying it's not possible. So when we actually got a venue that would allow us to use the showers, then it was, oh, you've only got 6 weeks. It's not possible. But From Us to You event happened in December. It was a gift to the community. And we
It was
bussed
nice.
them in, and they had a great day. They came in, the music was on, we were partying, and it was just a day for them to just take a nice hot shower.
I think one of the
and
best
everything was great.
things for me was watching them come in and just like the look on their face, like, and when I came in and saw Frankie and Ella and Lenore and Eric,
Yes.
and like
I
it
had
just
friends from
showed
college there.
our airline family for me.
Yes,
because
yes.
I'm just like,
Yes.
okay, the DJ's my husband. He's gonna be DJing. I don't know anyone, and now what do I do? And then to just see like we were like literally dancing and having a good time and service.
People who are often forgotten and don't get the benefit of physical touch.
Right.
A massage,
Right.
we had 3 chairs and a table. And it's just, for people who just feel forgotten, that people
Right.
just step over them and act like they don't exist. And this day was just for them. And we were dancing with them. It was great, wasn't it?
I loved when they finished. It was getting late. This is the one thing. It was getting late, and it had to wrap up. And this one young guy was like, I just need a haircut. And I'm like, I'm not doing the haircut. But I was like, he's getting a haircut. Just like, no, we got to. I was like, no, he's going to get a haircut.
Take charge, flight attendant.
But to see his face, like, they're, like you said, they're forgotten. And when they come in, you do. We do. We don't mean to, but you look at them like it's a homeless person. And sometimes you look past them and don't see them. But when they sat in that chair and someone's touching them, and the haircut, and this guy was young. This guy might have been 18 or 19, and he was homeless.
It
And
happens more than you think, too.
yeah, but when I saw his haircut, I saw him. And I'm looking at him like, that's someone's child.
Right.
And I don't know how he arrived. And I started talking,
Good.
like having conversations.
Yes.
He's like, I don't know, don't worry about it. I was like, no, that's what you're here for. I was like, oh, look at your eyes. Oh, you gonna think you're cute, right? And, you know, and it was like
you were there.
boyfriend and girlfriend. I was like, well, if he's getting a haircut, you know you better go get your hair done, because then he's going to be walking out of here thinking he's cute, and then you go get your hair done. Don't let him leave here looking good, and then she's like, I should. I was like, you
I
should.
love hearing these stories. I love it. I was so busy that day, I didn't know the stories.
It was nice, and I have to say, Ella and Lenore danced. This one guy, he was like, I'm going to break it down. I was like, I started to dance and I was getting winded. I was like, y'all not tired yet? Them girls was going.
Excuse me, how is it that you ended up tired? Because I know Carnival Queen.
That's a different beat. That's the beat that's in my soul. That's a different beat. That's a beast of a song. But it just made it worth it for whatever services or finances that were donated. And it's, again, you just don't know. Here you are helping people in their situation, and to look at you, you just never know your story. You never know what someone has been through and continues to go through, right? So in about to wrap up, I want to ask you, message of hope, message of someone who's been through, going through, and feeling stuck. They don't have their predator to address. They don't have a family to support. They didn't get that apology, and they're still stuck in that spot of when it happened. Give a message of hope.
Wow. I have to say that being someone who came from a place of surviving through this with support, I can't imagine how I would have handled things and how things would have affected me without any semblance of support. And I may have reacted by running away or just allowing things to happen. And you may have reacted by just exerting your power by saying, I choose, and going in a different route. But just know that whether you experienced fight or flight, or you became flirty, or you participated in things that you look back upon and can't quite explain to yourself, just know that arrested development, from whatever age that is, when you stop developing, whatever time that you stopped, whether it was 5 years old or 6 or 10, 12, 15, whatever part that you decided that the best way for me to handle this is to use the kill switch to the feelings, emotions, to facing it, to handling it, you can actually control that switch and turn it back on and begin to continue developing. You can do that. And I'll tell you that my full power came when I realized that that 5-year-old Bridgette was actually in the driver's seat of my life. That 5-year-old Bridgette was making decisions and handling things and responding to adult situations. And 5-year-old Bridgette was in the driver's seat. And you can now decide that if that's not what I want, it's not where I want to be, this is not where my development stops, you can just choose that now, present day Bridgette can now take the wheel. You may not have the opportunity to face your person and confront them. You can confront yourself and how you've handled this, and what you're going to do now to handle it differently. You know, maybe handling it differently for you is seeking counseling. Maybe handling it for you is letting go of the anger that you've turned inward and haven't voiced. Maybe handling it for you can be any number of things, but what I am saying is that when 40-year-old Bridgette was in control, that's when things began to change. That's when I stopped being in situations that I didn't want to be in. That's when I stopped protecting myself by avoiding everything. And that's when I was able to, instead of throwing myself so heavily into helping other people, into being everyone else's savior, and doing the right thing in the right time, in the right situation, and saying the right thing, and trying to wear the right thing, and dress the right part. And I threw myself into perfecting everything outwardly and helping and being the solution for everyone else. You can throw yourself into being your own solution. And 40-year-old Bridgette became the solution, started to become the solution to her own problems, concerns, issues. I tell you, as a person who spent from the age of 17 to 35, nearly completely, just my whole life just engulfed in depression, heavily dependent on medication in order to make it through the day. I didn't develop certain coping skills. The things you're supposed to learn, you know, when things get stressful, you have too much to do, you have too many deadlines. You develop those skills in college, and you know, when you get your first real job, you know, and you develop those skills. I didn't develop those skills because when things got stressful, I rolled over and cried. I would cry. This is too much, I don't feel like it. I would lay down and I would cry. And I did that until I was 35 years old. And so when I was freed from depression, I was healed from depression, and thank God for there being a healing where there is no cure. So with me being healed from depression, I still needed to be reinvented. I challenge you to reinvent yourself, because I was a person who didn't know how to cope with things. I didn't know how to push through. I didn't know how to continue. I didn't know how to fight for anything that I wanted, because I couldn't, my emotions were so that I couldn't even feel strong. I couldn't even muster up enough to feel strongly enough about something to care to go after it. And when I no longer had depression, I would muster up the strength to care about other people's causes. I'd muster up the strength to complete other people's tasks. And I'd muster up the strength to be the voice for some other victim, survivor, traumatized person. But I challenge you to muster up that strength and that care, that power within, for yourself. And once I started to do that, that's when everything began to change. And I'm still a work in progress. I'm still teaching myself these things, but it could never have happened without me snatching the wheel away from 5-year-old Bridgette. And I did it with help. But even alone, even solely, even if you just have yourself and your God, your higher being, if you just have yourself and one friend, one confidant, if you just have yourself and one counselor, if you just have yourself,
If that's enough.
you can muster up enough strength to snatch that wheel away from the traumatized little young person and decide it's time for the adults to take over. And I wish you all the best and all the strength in doing so, because it can be done.
I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being open and sharing your story. I know that wasn't easy because you had to relive it. But know, in speaking your truth and your story, someone will hear it, someone will be moved by it, and possibly someone will be saved by it. Use your voice. You are not alone. Get help wherever you can, however you can, and keep using your voice to share your story until someone sees you. Thank you for continuing to support and stand by me through this journey. I appreciate and love you. Thanks again, Bridgette. Yay. We did it. We're good.